This is Kevin Farkas of Concerned Citizens of West Mayfield. We recently held our first town hall. Mayor Lisa Cogley did a remarkable job bringing together the community for this event, and her passion and commitment toward improving West Mayfield is an inspiration to all of us. And you can hear from this recording of the town hall that we are blessed to have so many other friends and neighbors who also care deeply about our community. Now, our elected officials, they're part of the community too. But they alone will not solve our problems. It's up to we the people, concerned citizens, to take the lead in defining for ourselves what matters most to us in the community. And it's up to us to organize around those concerns and to bring them to our town council and the mayor so that they can take official action on behalf of the citizens, on the advice and consent of the people, and in cooperation with citizens who are willing to work alongside our town council. Does this sound too idealistic? Too much pie in the sky? Well, in boroughs all across the Commonwealth, citizens and their elected officials are working together to improve their communities. These are, in most cases, citizen-led movements. And if there is one essential ingredient to making these initiatives a success, it's a town hall meeting, where everyone in the community can come together, share their ideas, be heard, and, most important, come up with real solutions to the problems facing us today. The town hall meeting is, and should be, an ongoing conversation with democracy. We hope to see you and hear you at our future town hall gatherings. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is to my knowledge, our first ever borough town hall we've ever had in a borough. If you know something different, let me know. I'd like to know that. But I think this is the first time that citizens have ever gotten together in a meaningful way, I would think, to talk about the issues facing us, right? And I have to say two things, two little disclaimers. One, we're recording this tonight. This is an audio recording. And also, this is not a governmental meeting. This is not anything that we have to deal with in terms of the Sunshine Law or anything like that. So, but rules of decorum would be nice. No fisticuffs, Jake, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I like to think that we're amongst friends and neighbors here. We all live here. We have an interest. We know each other. My name's Kevin Farkas. If you don't know me, I founded this group, Concerned Citizens of West Mayfield, because I think it was necessary to have some organization that spoke to these issues in a way that you can't really get these conversations going at council meetings, right? They are very limited. The only time citizens can really speak is in the comments at the beginning. And well, if you've been to a council meeting, it's a bit crazy at times, and it's often very dysfunctional. So these issues I think are important enough that they need to be addressed in a more systematic and coherent way, and really, a deep dive into these issues, right? So when I post stuff on this Facebook page, and by the way, I just started a YouTube channel today, so we put some stuff up on there. But when I put stuff on this thing, it's like a lot of deep dive into the minutes, right? I'm citing the borough code, I'm citing lots of stuff. It informs us as to what is going on in this borough, what our rights are, right? What the law is. Our ordinances, for example. We have ordinances that have not been enforced in this borough for a long time. Those ordinances are on the books. Why have they not been enforced? I don't know. That's a conversation we should have as citizens. So let's bring our issues to the table, but let's bring solutions, ideas for problem solving, right? Look, I don't have the answers. I have ideas. I don't have the answers necessarily. Public safety is one of those issues. We've had an issue going on there at Bowden Street and Rock Avenue for a long time. And Chrissy has been saying, we've got her on record in the meeting minutes, right? We have her going back, 5 years?
Yeah.
Right? Saying, this intersection is crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to do something about that. We started to publicize that. Chrissy has given us some video. We've put that out there. We started to put solutions on the table. And if you look at that intersection now, it took us a while, right? If you go to the Concerned Citizens Facebook page, you will see photographs of what that intersection used to look like. You turned off of 37th Street, you couldn't see that stop sign until you got up on it. We got the bushes cut down. We got 2 stop signs there now to increase visibility.
Yes.
We've got a center line painted on there. We've got that paved. Now a speed hump is going in there. So we've done a lot of work to improve that intersection. That little intersection there is a great example of how we came together through this organization, and we pushed it, we spoke up at council meetings, we got things done, we challenged some of the resistance we got at the council meetings, and we broke through all that, and we've got an improved intersection,
Yes.
right? And there are still things that could be done there. We'll see where that goes, right?
Right.
We have a condition on High Street. That's another thing we may have to get to. So public safety is a real issue that, we need to think about, talk about, and come up with solutions. Code enforcement. If you read the ordinances on the website, it talks about nuisance properties as a health and safety issue. So we've got a lot of code enforcement issues in the borough now.
The problem
Bob.
with that is we got to get these codes updated.
Yeah.
We got to get things in there that says what we can do. Got to get more specific with a lot of this stuff because these guys are challenging me. They're saying, "Well, I want to see the code. Well, I want to,
They're out of date. And
motor vehicle. That's not a motor vehicle. That's a trailer. That's a camper." But then I got to explain to them. It also says has to be inspected, roadworthy, registered. And these guys, they fight me. I mean, I'm getting stuff done.
For those who don't know, Bob Tate is our interim code enforcement officer.
I've got a lot of stuff done already.
I'm sure you have, and I've seen it. And so those are the challenges that we should not just, bemoan about. Let's get into this. If the ordinances need to be changed so that we have a clear process of prosecuting those code violations, then that's what the council needs to take up.
well, a lot of that's with
The solicitor,
with
too.
solicitor. He
Solicitor.
has to look over that.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing right now about the sign issue. Is he has to look over how to rework that because it is worded out of date. It doesn't work for this community anymore.
Fire service. That's a public safety issue that I know a lot of people have concerns with. We have a fire service here that's been here since 1928. I don't know what to say about the fire service, but I know that people are raising issues about its adequacy. Mark Stowe, the chief of the Beaver Falls Fire Department, came and spoke before a council meeting and laid out a case for perhaps going with Beaver Falls as a full-time fire service, right? So these aren't easy issues, right? Because a lot of people have a lot of feelings about the fire department in general. I grew up with it, so there's nostalgia attached to it for a lot of people. There's also the question of who do you want to show up at your door? How qualified are they? What's on that truck? What kind of truck is there? And so forth. So maybe we could have a town hall meeting at some point devoted to fire service. And of course, our police protection. We've outsourced our police protection to Beaver Falls right now. And so that's always a thing for discussion. Is it adequate for us? I know a lot of people think no. Some people say yes. So, but citizens, my point in bringing this up is citizens have a right to weigh in on these issues and have a right to organize around these issues and to bring these issues in an organized way to the council meeting so that our council elected officials can hear our concerns, and if they choose to ignore our concerns, then we go to plan B. And the other thing is citizen involvement in terms of public safety. The solicitation permits that we have here in the borough, right? The mayor signs off on somebody to go around and solicit, so we know who that person is. Right? What you require, name and license plate of their car, and they have to carry that permit, yada yada. So when people were out around without a permit, that's a public safety issue. We don't know who these people are. You can't see in the neighborhoods who's home at 2:00 in the afternoon, who's not. You don't know, right? That is a public safety issue. So my dad, for years and years, would get calls from people saying, "Hey, there's people canvassing and soliciting around the neighborhood," and my dad would say, "Well, call the police. Don't call me. Call the police." And I'm sure you get the same kind of calls. Right. So public safety, if the mindset around that thing, I don't think we're quite there with the mindset that we see people canvassing around. It's like, let's call the police because it is a serious issue. It could be anyways. Infrastructure, right? Bill Heaton was, I have praised Bill Heaton for doing all the work he does on the sewers. But he just sent me a note recently saying, "Hey, could you make a mention that our sewers are being clogged up with wipes, baby wipes, flushable wipes?" So it's a real problem for our infrastructure, which is aging, And so when you impact that issue, right, citizens could say, okay, we have an aging sewer system. Is our public works department managing that appropriately? Are they doing preventative maintenance? Are they flushing the lines like they should? I don't know the answer to that question, but we have a right to weigh in on that. Because you know what, in the end, that is one utility that we all pay for. Right? We don't pay for the electric, we don't pay for the gas, we don't pay for the cable. We pay for those sewer pipes, right, out of taxpayers' money. Street lighting, that's another thing. Chrissy, you have a dark spot on your street you think needs to be lit up.
Oh, yeah.
There are probably other places around the borough for that. Controlling grass and weeds along the roadways. If I heard one complaint over the past couple of years, oh my God, it was that the weeds aren't being cut back. Cut down the weeds along the roadways and you pull up to a stop sign, you can't see. So concerned citizens, we had an issue down at the bottom of Rock Avenue, where West 3rd is, could not see. Well, you know what? We posted pictures of that and we made a thing of it. And that got taken care of. I'd like to think we had something to do with that. But the weeds got cut back around that so it was a safer intersection. That's happened in a few places around the borough. Let me just jump down to borough services. So one of the services that our borough offers, and we don't think of it as a service, is our park shelter rentals. So the fire department handles that. The borough council has given the concession to the fire department as a fundraising mechanism, right? So they rent out those shelters and the proceeds help fund the fire department. There have been a lot of complaints over the past several years about the way that's been managed, right? If you just stop and think about that for a second, that's taxpayers' property, that we own that park. That concession is granted to the fire department. It's not a given. We the citizens, grant that concession to the fire department. If it's being mismanaged in some way, we have a right to speak up about that. The ball field, there's been usage there for a number of years now with some of the leagues and so forth. I've never seen a contract or an MOU or anything that sort of defines the boundaries on that, but I know there have been some issues there. Citizens want to use that field, the fields are in use or whatever. That is that's part of the commonwealth of our borough, those ball fields. So we have a right to weigh in on that, and we should. Borough permits, right, to service. So Bob, you deal with permits for building code things, right? I don't know. I've never seen a permit. I've never seen a report about who has a permit in the borough.
I've given one out in the last 2 months,
Yeah.
plus all the occupancy permits, half a dozen of them.
That could be something that I would think might be a little more transparent, how that
But
works.
like the last
sheet.
meeting, I brought it up, I told it exactly what I got done so far.
Yeah. Our park down there, that is our park, right? That's our commonwealth down there. Maybe we would want to use parts of that park for something a little bit different right now. Maybe a community garden, maybe a bandstand down there, right, for community use, right? So we can provide a service to our own citizens.
Yeah, that's what Beaver Falls does.
A lot of places.
Yeah, where they got a band down there. And
We'll talk
that's
about
nice.
that after the budget meeting.
I did some work for Homewood this past weekend. I spent some time out there. And they have a nice little bandstand, nice little stage they have. It was wonderful for the community coming together there. You know. Oh, by the way, so I sat with some of their elected officials and stuff. You know what I mean? Their issues are the same as our issues here. They're the same, right? It's small town stuff, I guess. So I put something on this list called a community impact service. It reduces the waste we have. It gets us to think differently about how wasteful we are and so forth. So that is a program we might want to consider, Crime Stoppers. Now, our fire department, they're the experts in fire safety. Is there a fire safety program that we have? Now, there used to be, right? This is where knowing your history is important.
Yeah, there
used to be. They used to put out coloring books for kids. They used to have
October is
kids
Fire
there.
Safety Month. So
October
when
is Fire Safety
I worked
Month.
at Home Depot every October. We did a big, huge thing out there. So I know that
Yeah.
October is Fire Safety here.
We are not offering that service to our citizens.
Yeah.
I know Beaver Falls actually, they have grant money to go in and change smoke alarms, to check smoke alarms, which also, it raises the question here of, you know, we have a lot of elderly people in the community here. And we talk about the ordinances where you have to cut your grass and you have to remove your snow and so forth. How do elderly people do it? Often they don't. So maybe there's a capacity in this borough for us to come together, citizens to come together and create a community volunteer program where we can identify people, elderly folks, who just can't shovel their walk, can't cut their grass, whatever. And maybe there are grant monies out there. And maybe our own council could help support a program like that financially in terms of the resources to help the elderly residents.
I did that for some of them.
You're a good man.
Picked the branches up for them and that shoulder sidewalk.
You're good. That's what being a community is about.
I
right?
know it is.
That's
I grew up here and I know.
So last year we had this power outage for a long time. And Chrissy and I have talked about this. We talked about when there's an emergency like that, do we have a warming station set up, a cooling station? Is there a plan for that? When that power goes out, that's not the time to figure it out. The time is now to figure that stuff out, right? Even a charging station. So, people today mostly have their cell phone. If your cell tower works and your phone's charged right, you can pretty much still have communication with the world. The old landlines, right, they used to work if your power went out. But who has a landline anymore? If people don't have cell phones, they often have a cordless phone.
Kathy.
If your juice does not...
I have a landline.
That just got rid of mine.
Yeah, me too.
Hello, this is Kathy.
But it can't be a cordless phone, so.
Yeah, if
And you're dead.
power goes to your base station, you have no phone. So maybe if we think bigger, broader, think outside the box, we can think about a service that we provide when the power goes out to have perhaps at the fire station, perhaps here, power strips, a charging station. Maybe someone has a phone here for people who need to call out to the outside world for medicines or contact with their relatives and so forth, right? Again, thinking outside the box, but this is all totally within our capacity
Sure.
to do. The last service I want to mention is community space. We don't have a community building. Now, the closest thing we have to a community space, community building is the fire hall. Well, that's not government, so how do you get the fire hall if you want to have a community event? Well, you have to rent it. Is that fair if it's for the community that we are renting? Janet, you're shaking your head no. That's not fair.
No.
But there's nothing we can do about it.
You got
We
full
can't-
teeth to get them to,
Well, I
to
understand.
be
Well,
able to
We can't
use it.
force them,
You
right?
got to pull teeth to get them to answer their phone.
Yeah,
You
that
don't want to
too.
answer their phone to actually be able to rent it. I mean,
Well, maybe we could strike a deal with the fire department to say, hey, for the community, for the good of the community, if we to have a community event, we can do that. Look, we live in a real world, right? It costs them money to keep the lights on. It costs them for water. So maybe there's a little bit of a quick.
But at the same token, who's funding them?
Well, that's a good point, Bob, and maybe this is probably a part for the fire service thing. I was just explaining to Chrissy, that fire department is a nonprofit. It's an incorporated nonprofit with the state. It's a special nonprofit in that it provides fire service, right? It's a private entity in that regard. It's not a governmental agency. That fire department is divided into two halves. One half is the fire hall side. Eli, correct me if I'm wrong on this. It's the fire hall side, which is run by the Firemen's Relief Association. They have a president, they have a vice president, a secretary, treasurer, right? The side that the borough deals with is the fire service side. That's the side of the fire trucks. That's for fire service. The borough does not support the social hall. The borough does not support anything other than the fire service.
Well, it is kind of the same thing, is it not? I mean, their trucks are parked inside. The fire service is using their recreational, or whatever you want to call it, side to park their trucks in
Well, it's not.
and hold all their activities.
It's all one entity. The Relief Association is a clearinghouse for the $5,000-ish a year that we get from foreign fire insurance. If your homeowner's insurance company isn't registered in Pennsylvania, it has to kick some money back to the state, which in turn gives it to the fire department. So we get about $5,000 a year to the borough, given to the fire department, that has to be accounted for based on what we purchase. And that money is strictly limited to equipment, vehicles, education.
Sure.
We provide workman's comp to the firemen. That's in our borough code. That at a fire call, those firemen are considered a borough employee, language in the borough code, for the purposes of workman's comp. So if they get hurt, going to a fire call, at the fire call, coming back, they are covered by the borough's workman's compensation, right? Again, nothing to do with the social hall side of it. But look, we're all in this together, right? So I think maybe we could strike a deal with the fire department, right? As much as you want to say, you ought to just open this up, damn it, to everybody in the community.
No.
well, I'll be honest with you. The Tate family has a yearly, sometimes it used to be like 2 or 3 times up at a church, Well, they always let the church open and it didn't cost anything. But the family, and I mean the family of like 65 people, chip in a little contribution to say, hey, thank you for you letting us use it. That helps to pay for the electric and the power and the running of the water. You know, it's just a little something to say thank you to the church for letting us have our dinner. It'd be no different to say, hey, let's put a little pot here, you know, and say, let's take a contribution to say thank you for letting us use this building. I mean, why not
But
put
they
a
don't
little,
cooperate.
well,
I mean, we provide
haven't
the
been
food,
asked
we
like that.
provide the treats, we provide the drink.
right, but doesn't
We
it
use
say
the
that,
sink, we use the toilets, we scrub the floors. That place is probably cleaner when we leave.
yeah,
And when
but,
we got there,
But my point, I think we're open to a dialogue, right? Shouldn't we be open to a dialogue with the fire department, right? Let's try it. Throw something on the table.
I'm willing.
Not
We've
preclude-
tried.
Not preclude. Well, look, put something formal on the table. And if it's no, then there's Plan B. Plan B is, I don't know what Plan B is. Maybe Plan B is that West Mayfield citizens start to organize to create their own community center, buy the property. You know, the Beaver Falls Historical Society just worked a deal out with Homewood Fire Department to tear down the old St. Cloud Hotel, put up a big pole building, right? They're gonna have a new museum right there,
Oh,
right?
cool.
They got about 2 nickels in their bank account.
Yeah, they're
Right, but look what they did. So there are ways to do it. But I don't think we could preclude any of this.
I mean, they still have their bingo 2 days a week also, for as small as it is
Yeah,
out there
yeah.
now.
My view
The
is,
fire department doesn't want to do that anymore either, and everybody loved that, the bingo.
Well, the fire department is all volunteers, right?
it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not sticking up for the fire department. I'm just saying you gotta look at both sides. If we don't have enough people to volunteer for the fire department, then how do we expect the fire department to take care of everyone? So I'm saying, in that token, maybe the fire department needs to come up with some type of business plan or business action or whatever you wanna call
Well,
it.
they have.
So that we know, are they gonna be, is it sustainable for the fire department to be there? Are they gonna have enough volunteers to respond in case we?
They have
need them?
35 guys, I guess, apparently, right?
They have
Is that what you got,
a
Eli?
salary.
Right, but how many of them ever
They
show up?
said.
Just because they're on the roster don't mean they're showing up
Yeah.
anywhere.
Nobody
Okay,
shows
so
up.
you just take that point there. Okay, so of the firemen, right? Firemen who will get on a truck and come show up at your door, the taxpayers are paying for workman's comp, right?
Yep.
Don't we have a vested interest to kind of know
Yep.
the qualifications of those people? Are they healthy? Are they not?
Well,
don't know.
I can tell you, I work in insurance, and the fire department, the volunteer fire department, when they're covered under the workman's comp, they're covered based on the population of the entire borough. That's how they do it. So it's not based on the individuals in the fire department.
Right.
So I'm saying if it's based on the population, it doesn't matter how many individuals are there.
Right.
You're not paying separately.
This is a great conversation for a dedicated town hall, if you ask me, right? Where we just lay this out. Look, I would want to know, I think Mark Stowe made a compelling case of why we need to go with Beaver Falls. But I'd like to know 5 years out, what are we going to be paying? 7 years out, what are we paying? Let's run the numbers and see what it really looks like, right?
Yeah.
You know, why be fools about it? But I think that issue is serious enough. It deserves a full-on dedicated hearing itself. Let me move on to good governance and budget. This is kind of one of my favorite areas here. I've been really nailing this topic on the Concerned Citizens page. I plow through those minutes online, those records, the borough code. Man, I'll find that section. I'll find the wording. And that's what's necessary, because you know what? I'll just be blunt. Over and over and over again, we've been told at council meetings, that can't be done, this can't be done, that's not permissible. And I look into the laws, I look into the ordinances, and I don't see it. I see just the opposite in there. Now, I'm no lawyer, right, but I can read and I can think, and so can you. In fact, I said to Joe Budasek one night, I had a legal question for him, and he said, "You can read, right?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So my point is, these are all things that we can challenge and we could address, pose, wrap our heads around in some way to find some clear understanding of what these issues really are. For example, this thing that came up at the last meeting of compensation for the borough council people. So there's an ordinance, 177, that says compensation, you get paid if you show up at a meeting. So Jeff put a motion on the table, didn't even get a reading. Talk about jettisoning old decorum, Robert's rules. You can't do it. So I asked from that seat, well, what authority says you can't do it? So Pat, borough secretary, said, I'll get back to you. Thanks, Pat. She says, I talked to some people, they said, no, you can't do it. I'll find some stuff, I'll send it to you. Thank you, Pat. Because everything that I read, the research that I did, I found 1,000 boroughs across the Commonwealth that actually do tie compensation to their council members to meetings. You don't show up, you don't get paid. You don't have a valid excuse, you don't get paid. One borough says, give us a valid excuse at the next meeting. We'll examine that excuse at the table. We'll decide there if it's valid or not, whether you get paid or not. Some boroughs don't pay their council people at all. State College, for example, which I think it's a city, right? I spent 3 years. I mean, it's a big place. It's a borough. No council person gets paid, right? The council has the power to do that, right? So Pat finally got back to me with an ordinance 010196 signed by my dad, who was president of the council, and there it sets the council pay at $1,200 a year, and then it says underneath there that council will get paid $100 for each meeting that they attend. So there are 2 ordinances that tie compensation to meeting attendance. It's on the book. So as a governmental body, you just ignore the law? What do you do with that? It's on the book. Meetings are tied, compensation is tied to meetings. Well, council has the right to jettison that. They can strike that from the ordinances, they could revise it, they could do whatever they want with that. But you can't have something on the books and not obey it, can you?
I don't think they can
Technically, they
change an
shouldn't.
ordinance without it being posted for like 60 days. They have to write it and post it. No, but it just means that you can argue against
They
it.
can do it the official way. In fact, section 33 of the Borough Code, it says how you can follow that. So, it can be done short way or long ways or whatever, but it can be done. Now, personally, I think it's BS. Bill Heaton made the great argument, I'll work it out in the sewers. What do you mean? I can't make a meeting and I don't get paid? I think someone should get paid. But maybe they should get paid a little extra if they attend a meeting. Because council members do, you guys who are council, tell me, you do work. Is it fair that for some reason, you got to attend your kid's softball game, you can't make the meeting, that you don't get paid for that month?
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's definitely important to be.
Let's say you live on the phone, you could call in.
Yeah.
Well,
You can call in and do it too.
Here's the
You're
way I
set.
look at this. Now, this is
I'm in a tree stand. Here's what I want to say.
right.
That's right.
So now,
I would.
if you have a valid excuse, certainly you got something really going on, fine. But to sit at home and do nothing, not a valid excuse.
So how do you tell?
Council needs to come
It's
up with a
easy to
policy.
tell, especially when you drive right past the house during the meeting. If my car's in the driveway, guess where I'm at? I'm at home.
That issue is a can of worms. Believe
The
me.
last thing you should hear is one of them say, I didn't know, I wasn't here.
A lot of things go on at these borough meetings that are very important. And I mean, even if it's just to discuss the things that you did through, do I get paid enough to do this job? Absolutely not. Do I do this job for money? Absolutely not. It's not that big of a deal to me.
Do it for the borough, for the people.
I'm here for the borough. Yeah.
Community.
So that is one issue, but it can be solved. Council can solve its own issue. Get on with it and solve the issue.
They don't get shut down.
Well, okay. So that brings me up to this principle of decorum. So you've all been to these meetings and you've seen how crazy they can see this arguing and people getting right up disorderly, dysfunctional. Things get brought up and then they get dropped and we don't know. I can hear it. I hear people saying, what did they do? Did they decide that? Did they not? Right? And then you come back to the next meeting and it's on the table again. And it's like, what, didn't we decide this already? And you come back to the next meeting. Didn't we decide this, right? That boom mower that we have, that's a classic example. Right?
2 years
Yeah,
worth.
here's the reaction. That's been going on and on and on. Where is the resolve on that? Well, part of this problem is that we don't have an effective meeting structure here. And here's the deal. The Borough Code doesn't demand that a council follow Robert's rules, strongly suggested by the State Boroughs Association. And they do follow Robert's rules to some degree. And they do follow some semblance of an order. But other councils follow Robert's rules by resolution. And that is something that I think needs to happen. I think this borough needs to get itself in line and adopt a resolution of decorum that states from A to Z, this is how these public meetings go. This is how we're going to prepare for the meetings. Some places require the agenda to be prepared at least 72 hours in advance so that people coming in the meetings, they have the information a couple days before. They sit down at a table and they're reading stuff and it's like, it's a little too late, you know what I mean? How citizens respond, how council responds, these are all things that can be defined in a resolution of decorum. Elizabethtown Borough has a wonderful resolution of decorum. I have it online. It'd be a great template. Easily be done, right? And it takes the will of council to say, you know what, enough of this. Let's get our stuff together here and do things a little bit differently here. These chairs, right? Every meeting, right? We joke about it, but it's council has the capacity to say, you know what, this is BS for our citizens. This is not comfortable. Why don't we get new chairs, padded folding chairs, if nothing else, right? We have the money.
Old church pews.
But it's doable. It's doable. Any one of you council members in here could lay a motion on the table, right?
I'll make the motion. I'm sitting in this chair right now. I ain't sitting in that thing.
Well, we're all the bosses. They work for us. And we sit in the wooden chairs. What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah. These are actually very historic, I gather.
Yeah.
These have been through, they've been around a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little too long, I guess. Committee structures, right? That's one thing I notice. I see it in the research that I do with other boroughs. Other boroughs structure their committees very differently, right? They have committees that respond to modern day concerns. Communications committee, for example. A lot of boroughs have a communications committee. There's a person designated, or a group of council people designated, to mind how the borough communicates with citizens. Right, that person is the spokesperson. The chair might be a spokesperson. They are mindful that all of the documents are publicly accessible. There are 5 boroughs in the county that do not have a designated open records point person. We are one of them. If you go on the Office of Open Records website, you will see this database, and you can search everybody out, and you can see that Chippewa has this person designated as the open records officer. That person's job is to make sure if there's a request, and believe me, come January, I'm going to be firing off a lot of open records requests. I'm going to put out a lot of requests. So it's coming. But we don't have someone who's designated. It's blank on the website. We're one of 5 in the county. So we need to get our act together like that. Beautification committee. There's a great example of how we could create a committee, extension of parks, perhaps, but a committee that is focused on the common spaces, the pleasantries, how things look, flowers down at the honor roll, weed whacking, right? We don't have borough employees to do a lot of stuff. But a beautification committee is something that a lot of boroughs have adopted and is a perfect vehicle to invite the public to participate in. Because there are people in this borough who are retired. They're looking for something to do. They may have a green thumb. They may be super energetic, like your mom with a weed whacker. Look out when Flo's got a weed whacker, right? We'll get Flo out there.
Run.
Well, she did. She did the creek down there. That's held her to there, and there was 3 or 4 of them.
Right.
They got all the way down.
The problem with that is we have a crew
it shouldn't
that
happen.
can't do anything but cut grass, but they do more damage than they do good. They go in there with the trucks. They can't walk over and pick up a stick. They got to drive the truck to the stick and put ruts in the yard instead of walking over, get the stick, throw it in the truck.
So this brings me to the next point here. And I've been saying this for some time now. And when I say it to people, they kind of look at me strange. There's a handbook for council members. It's put out by the governor's office. It's a handbook. And you can read in there. It says in there, the primary job of council members, the primary job is to be a legislator. To be a legislator. To deal with ordinances, to deal with the bills, pass motions, mind the business of the borough. I don't know about you. I didn't vote for anybody to be a grass cutter. Right? No offense. Right? You're good at what you do. God bless you for doing that. And really, honestly, God bless Wendy Harker and Lou Little for going down there and doing the work that won't get done otherwise, right? Cutting grass down at the park, for example. But that's not what a council person should do.
No.
A council person should be full-time looking for the resources and the wherewithal for us to hire people to cut the grass. But we've got this all backwards. So we're never going to get out of this hole of not dealing with some of these real issues that we have around public safety and landing the big grants for park equipment.
Well, the issue is a lot of this stuff has been brought up but thrown down
Or ignored.
or ignored.
We'll get back
It's
to
look. There are things that get brought up plenty of times that could easily fix certain it could be an easy solution to a lot of problems, and it just goes right back to the way it was before.
I don't have time to babysit.
Yep.
So here's
I'm in charge, but I don't have time to babysit.
Here's the problem. You don't have a resolution of decorum. If you all agreed, the council agreed to use Robert's Rules of Order, any councilman can put a motion on the table. Motion has to have a hearing. You vote it up or you vote it down.
We've already went through this discussion though. What happens when you don't stand by your motion? there's no rule.
If council is passing motions and not following, council is essentially breaking the law.
Well, that's what they're doing then.
That's what they're doing. Well, you know, I'm not gonna go there, except for, I'll say this. The nuclear option for everybody, all citizens groups. Take Ralph Nader. If you guys know Ralph Nader, who Ralph Nader is. Ralph Nader's greatest weapon as a citizen was to file a suit in district court, right? And let the chips fall where they may. You know, if you've ever been in a courtroom, right, a judge says, what's your side of it, what's your side of it, right? Citizens can say, look, we have laws on the books. They're passing stuff, they're not following them. And the judge would say to the representative, Joe Budasek would represent council, Joe, what's the story here? We have laws, but we're not following. You know, a judge would say, follow the laws, come on, right? My assumption, right? But that's the nuclear option. Mayor, did you want to?
I just wanted to interject something.
Yeah.
I wanted to introduce our guests here that came out of the way today. We have John and Renata Lucci, who are now owners of the Corner Tavern.
Ooh.
Okay, we want to welcome them to do business to the community.
Thank you.
And Klaus over here.
Klaus.
Klaus.
That's Frogman Frank.
You keep thinking about
Santa.
You're Rainey's brother.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And he lives in West Mayfield. He was gonna be our savior with the being our DJ, but our centennial ran really late, so we finished up when we did. We will remember that. And tonight's officer that came was Captain Martin, who spent the entire weekend at our centennial. Thank you for being here, Captain.
Yeah, thank you.
And our 3 councilmen that are here, Jake, Eli, Jeffrey. Thank you for coming. No, I didn't. I went around.
She couldn't see you with all the camouflage.
Eli is for the fireman here.
Our intern code enforcement officer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby.
You already
enforcer.
told her who I was.
Yes, we know. He's been doing a great job. Because he's doing the job. Okay. And
Did you miss another one in the back?
Tracy.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Hey, Tracy Popovich?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
now we have a face to
Well, now we have a face.
I
They're probably
want to
sitting
thank
here
everyone for
making a-
coming tonight. We love your support. Keep up reading everything on Facebook. Does anyone have any questions for? I think Beaver Falls Police are doing a fabulous job.
Outstanding job.
Absolutely. And they're gonna be down at our trunk or treat next Saturday, giving out candy, because that's what they do.
Bring the good stuff.
And John and Renata, did you want to say anything about your business? I know you're doing your renovations right
A lot of
now.
renovations, spearheaded by Renata.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is my show. I make the food. The food, everything, the food. We
But a lot of
did like a
renovations.
huge remake over.
Do you want the podium?
No, that's fine. I don't understand.
Is the upstairs gonna stay the same?
No, we're not gonna do upstairs for insurance purposes, but we're remodeling the dining room, cleaning, painting. The kitchen is getting an acid wash, everything good. The basement, we got a huge Cox's Boxes dumpster, and we're throwing a lot of stuff out. Cleaning.
What about the grease behind the building?
That's
Yeah,
gone.
he's gonna-
That's gone. Yeah, we
That's
took
gonna be
care
their
of
outdoor
that.
seating area, right?
Yeah,
I want to next year.
Oh, that's
If
the
all goes
Chinese
well, if
restaurant.
I have all your
They
support, I
reuse
could
it.
give
So they
it.
had a lot of complaints about that before.
You got my support.
Yeah, I was over budget, so I had to wait till next week, next year.
So the restaurant portion is gonna be open?
Yeah, about, I'm shooting for the 16th.
Okay, so now it's
Yeah.
not gonna be just the bar, it's gonna be the restaurant too?
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And we're gonna be consistent every day, probably open until 9 on Sundays, 10 every other day of the week. Pizza, spaghetti, meatballs, homemade meatballs, me, sauce, me.
What about when the Steelers are on?
Oh yeah, pizza, anything, full menu,
Is your family helping Joe?
kind of.
I was gonna say,
With childcare, kind of.
well, we wish you the best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting us. That was nice.
Get bar
It would be
stools.
nice for it to be back the way it
Do
used
you
to
want
be
bar
yeah.
stools?
with the restaurant. So we don't have to come in and go like this, like
What
the
time's
olden
happy
days.
hour?
Happy hour, maybe 4 to 6. I don't know.
Actually, I think it's 5 to 7.
Okay.
But
Oh,
give
he
me
does look
another
better.
day or so, it'll be updated correctly.
Wait, do I hear factions about bar stools or no bar stools?
Well, it used to be no bar stools and it was
Yeah,
like this, and we were
yeah.
never allowed in.
But then he put bar stools in
There's like
and
3.
he got.
There's like 3 or 4 in there.
shit for that.
That's what makes it unique.
That was always,
Yeah.
that was always gonna stand up bar.
Don't put your elbow
He's
down.
gonna have a can over there.
We are excited, so.
That's really cool.
Any
Yeah,
support
it's awesome.
is welcome. There's a new menu out, so.
It's on Facebook.
And it looks great. The menu looks great.
Any questions for the Beaver Falls police officer?
I think they did a great job at the center.
Any questions for Frank? He's always
Nice to
around.
see some emergency services there.
I
How do you sound so cool on the radio, Frank?
Practice.
Alcohol.
He's on front.
The Corner Tavern.
Yeah, a lot of you might not know this. Frank and I had a little project that didn't quite pan out, but we were going to do a
A podcast called Bar Talk.
bar talk, right?
After I moved back here, I was gone for, I was born and raised here in West Mayfield, but I was gone for about 30 years. Moved back, I was in Philly for 17. Everybody has their cross to bear, right? I was in Philly for 17, then I came back and Kevin and I were gonna do a podcast called Bar Talk. Well, I got another idea and I was hoping I'd see it tonight, but we'll talk about it at a different time.
Well, I'll help.
You can't get his name.
She thought I worked at BVP.
Yeah.
She thought I was Jim Reynolds' grandfather.
Is he the one that did our spelling bees on radio?
I don't know.
think
Teddy bear.
Jim,
You get free advertisement.
Okay.
Oh yeah, free advertisement on the radio, is that a thing, or? I'd give a shout outs to West Mayfield when the Centennial celebration. Oh yeah, I heard it, oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Bobby? He doing his job.
Yeah, he hit me up for a dang building permit, the only one that he sold so
That's the
far.
only permit I sold so far.
His own damn family.
The man by the book. So one of the complaints that we had from our last code person was we never knew what was going on, right? We never had a report. The reports were delivered, if I'm correct, but they were never transmitted to the public, right? So one of the things that's on the list here under good governance is to make our documents and our actions more transparent by using the website. So we can see authorized permits, we can see the solicitation stuff up there, we can see a lot more of the reports, the financial stuff and whatever. We can see the budget time's coming up, right? Wouldn't you love to see the proposed budget online for yourself, right? So you can look at it, right? So that's a thing we kind of work for. But around code enforcement, I know that a lot of people said, we never know what the hell's going on with their former officer. So I hope you change that.
And I get a lot of help too. She looks stuff up and.
But he gave a
she
report
types
last
stuff up.
time.
Yeah.
So they didn't give him a real, like, when they go around this circle thing, you know, I mean, he had to chime in. They didn't actually even say, do you have anything? He had to push himself forward.
You should have a standing item on, a standing report on this agenda, right? And that's another thing about the committees. None of the committees are required to give a written report. I think that should change.
I think so too.
Maybe that's a condition for your monthly pay, that you provide a written report.
Of what you
I
did.
mean, you too, Mayor.
We used to.
What you did?
They want me to, they put me at the end. Everyone wants to leave and everyone wants me to shut up.
So we're at the end of our time here. Let me put a capper on this event, right? Because this kind of fits into this. But if you haven't seen the trunk or treats coming up, wonderful event. Our next town hall is going to be a candidates forum because we have an election coming up, a municipal election. Did you see that thing I just posted the other day about the spread? Most council members,
Yes.
13 votes. 13 votes, right, separates the candidates who get into office. So you don't think a vote matters, right?
A vote matters.
13 votes is the spread. Anyways, and we only have 33% who show up anyways to vote.
Are the candidates each gonna speak when we're there?
Well, that's what we're gonna,
Yes,
so all the candidates are gonna get an invitation to our next, which is, do you know the date?
November 1.
Okay, November 1st.
It's a Wednesday.
Close to it. And so I'm gonna ask the candidates to provide a bit of a bio and a platform So we can sort of figure out where everyone stands, and then we'll come together back here, maybe here. Why not?
Well, I talked to Lou about the fire department. I really
Okay,
think
fire
they're gonna have
department,
a
okay.
bigger, with a podium.
And so we
Let
can,
them
have
talk.
the candidates come up and tell you how they will solve some of these issues that we identified here tonight. Because if we have an issue with some of the incumbents, maybe the solution to that problem is to vote the incumbent out and put a new change candidate into office. So look forward to seeing all of you. You'll see lots of stuff online about this as we move forward on November 1st. If you guys could get onto the Concerned Citizens West Mayfield page and comment on this experience. If you thought it was valuable, let us know.
I think it's a great thing.
Please share it with your neighbors. You know, get them involved.
I talked to people yesterday, we were doing the flyer. They loved it when you start talking to them down.
Yeah, they need
We're
to
trying
know
to get
about
the
stuff like
community
this.
back together again.